I'm a home inspector.
He's got a flashlight in his hand, crawling on the floors like a
Because
desert
this is where
man.
shit happens.
Pipes and wires, he's got the plan. Nobody sharper than Inspector Dan. He's climbing roofs in the Arizona sun, inspecting homes till the job is done. Inspector Dan in Gilbertown, he won't let your new house let you down. From the attic to the ground, he's the sharpest guy around. Termites lurking in the dark, foundation cracks, he'll leave no mark. AC humming or a spark, Dan's the guy who hits the mark. He's scanning walls for secrets they hide, keeping your dream home safe inside. Inspector Dan in Gilbertown, he won't let your new house let you down. From the attic to the ground, he's the sharpest guy around.
You've been on a podcast before, haven't you?
No,
No way.
we'll see how it goes.
This is your first podcast. Then.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks,
I
Dan.
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you.
Of course. So one of the main things I wanted to talk to you today about, or at least talk to my viewers or give them some more information about, is the backside of inspecting. A lot of home buyers and real estate agents don't see the backside of the inspection world. So we've got a kind of unique perspective looking at that from where we're at, especially down here in Phoenix. So
Yeah.
I know you have just about as much experience, if not more, than I do. So I thought you'd be a good guy to come on and kind of explain what's going on. So how long have you been inspecting?
So just about 5 years now, almost exactly.
So you got started like during COVID then?
Yeah, it was September 29th, 2020. Now what is it, October 6th?
Yeah. Yeah, so you started right at the beginning of the pandemic,
Yeah.
pushed through it.
I worked in hotels most of my life, and I was actually working two jobs. In March 21st, they shut down. And they just thought, okay, well, let's wait till the summer starts and we'll just bring everybody back, a couple months and it'll be over.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of summer, they finally laid everybody off because it wasn't getting any better. And so I had a friend, Dylan Bucknovich, who actually works with Pro Inspect. He owns that company, but at the time, he was working with Dwell Inspect, Arizona.
Gotcha.
And I'd known Dylan since 2005. He worked at resorts with me, and he became a home inspector, and then he became an agent, and then in 2020, he actually went back to home inspecting. And so he's like, why don't you come check this out? And I did, and I really liked it, and so I've been with Dwell Inspect ever since, about 5 years.
So going with Dwell was a good option for you at the time. Did they help you get your license or anything?
I think they probably, Sean, the owner, pointed me in a couple directions. I think Dylan probably did as well, but it was really just, they worked with me as I was getting my license. They trained me as I was getting my license and doing parallels and doing the national exam and even through the class. I hadn't done any of that before I had started.
That's kind of good in a way, because I was kind of the opposite. I went to the school and went there for a couple months and then started doing my parallels without even inspecting once or being with an inspector.
Yeah. So it was like on-the-job training, which was nice.
Yeah.
And even now we take our new inspectors through generally 100 inspections, because sometimes they just don't get it. It takes a while for things to click.
But that's good that you guys do that though, because I didn't feel comfortable inspecting until I probably had a couple hundred inspections under my belt.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to say fake it till you make it.
You do though.
But you do a little bit. You know as much as you know, as long as you got the communication down and the skill down to relay as much of that critical information. We might skip a couple things when we're first starting because we're not aware of it or not aware of what the damage might cause down the road for the buyer. But, for the most part, we just go over everything and we just keep adding our library over the years that we keep inspecting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and here in Arizona, it's a licensed state, which is nice. I think it's nice. There's pros and cons to having licenses and not, but you have to do at least 30 parallel inspections, pass the national exam, do some schooling. Other places, California, Minnesota, you don't have to do any of that.
Right.
And so you can start inspecting, I think Colorado, and say, I'm an inspector. But a lot of times, then you have those organizations, inspector organizations that will say, oh, you're qualified by us, and, teach you something. But even just doing the 30 parallel inspections, that's 30 inspections that you really didn't learn too much.
Right.
We don't feel comfortable letting people go after 30 inspections. Like I said, about 100, and they've learned how to inspect and seen most things, and they're new, and we'll put them through easy homes and newer homes as much as possible. But it takes a lot more than even 100 to be really comfortable.
Do you guys have a high turnover for inspectors?
No, we don't. We have five inspectors. We actually have one who did just leave at the beginning of October to start his own company. His name is Jeremy, and I think it's Copper Ridge Property Inspections. Okay. And so he's always wanted to do his own thing, and found that was a good timing to do it, and went out on his own. But in general, no, we keep most of our guys.
So here comes the other question, which was kind of a big brick wall when I started looking for work, was non-compete agreements.
Yeah.
Do you guys have those?
We do.
Yeah.
And I was also reading just recently that non-compete agreements are kind of basically illegal, but now people are just calling them non-solicitation agreements. And I was reading that even some non-solicitation agreements are written like non-compete agreements, so if they're too similar, they can probably be thrown out.
Gotcha.
But we've never held anybody to them, guys that have left. I don't really understand them. I don't like them in general, because when I was working at resorts, when I was younger, I wanted to be a chef. And
right.
You grow up, you learn from chefs, and maybe you go to another restaurant and you learn from that chef, and then maybe you go to a third one, or then you go open your own restaurant. Nobody's like, you can't go open your own restaurant, you can't learn from us and then go somewhere else. But in the home inspection industry, it's like, hey, don't work in the state for 300 miles of the city for 2 years, right. Otherwise we're going to sue you. And it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. It does in a way, because they don't. The point is they don't want you stealing their agents that they've worked hard and to kind of secure. And even when I say that, agents, it's not like anybody's agents. They're not your client, but right. Really, you're getting a lot of clients from the agents, and you build relationships with agents. You're going to build relationships. You're going to get those clients in, and so you work hard to build those relationships. And they just don't want you stealing them. They don't want their top inspectors leaving and then taking all those people they worked really hard to work with. So I get the non-solicitation, but at the same time, it just seems weird that you don't want someone else to go and do their own thing and be successful.
Yeah. Provide for their family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down to me. It was like you telling me that if we have some problems going down the road, whether it's your fault or my fault, that no matter how it ends up, I can't go out and provide for my family. I was like, I'm not going to go through all this training and classrooms and all the parallels to become a home inspector just to have some random company to tell me I can't, work in a certain zone. But it's kind of a weird area, because I can understand where they're trying to protect their company. But at the same time, like you were saying, those relationships that you build, we don't possess agents. There aren't our agents, we call it that. But that's because we worked so hard to build up a rapport with them and a relationship with them. We don't want to lose them because they keep coming back to us. And if I go to a different company, it's a very good chance, like I just did last year, I started my own company, and a lot of my agents, they quit BPG and they followed me, because what it comes down to is you, man, and me, and the people. Most home inspection companies, I think, are kind of the same, aren't they? They just, it really comes down to the people and the person helping you.
Well, and a lot of times it comes down to the back end support too. So I've known agents who have went and tried, worked with somebody else, and sometimes it's hard because that single man operator, they're answering phones in the attics, in the crawl spaces. They can't answer their phone because they're on a 1 hour review with somebody. And so then the client just calls somebody else, because, often you're not able to get to it right away. And so with, a multi-inspector firm, or when you have an office, or even some single guys that they, hire somebody to answer their phones for them at least. So that way they have an office that maybe feels a little more I don't want to say professional, but it feels bigger than it is.
More formal.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're able to have that as a single man operator, but sometimes you just lose or don't have a lot of that back end stuff when you're all by yourself versus if you have an office of 3 people to call agents and set up appointments and get access to the homes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely an advantage for a multi-inspector firm.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it both ways. I don't want to have to pick up a phone when I'm out inspecting, but at the same time, I'm glad that I'm the one talking to them. Because a lot of my problems were my back-end staff at BPG. They were hard to deal with. They would miscommunicate things.
Yep.
They were good in their own regards for a lot of things, but when I got a CBS code and it only had 6 numbers in it, I'm like, what are you doing? Every CBS number has 7 digits in it. Why am I getting these 6-digit numbers? And it's that basic stuff that they're not in the field, so they're just pushing keys. So I don't want to blame them. Everybody makes mistakes, but it got to the point where I was just like, oh my gosh, it's a big chunk of my change going to somebody that keeps making my life harder. So that was kind of what pushed me out the door. But
yeah, and if they're not your staff, it's hard. You can't really train them, and you're not taking the time to, have a training call with them every day or something like that.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah, I know a lot of solo inspectors. They hire these answering
call centers,
services, call center. Yeah, and AI is getting into that a lot now too. I keep getting hit up to try this AI phone answering software. I hesitated because every time AI gives me a phone call, I always hang up on them right away.
Yeah, I think there's probably some use in it, at least at this point, and just maybe like after hours, and just saying, hey, this is after hours. I am an AI assistant. I can help you with some minimal things.
Right.
And I could direct you to our website. Basic stuff, but at least they know, okay, you're not the main answering service. You're helping out because it's 8 p.m. or something like that.
Right. You got some type of support, whether it's AI or something. They can get an answer that they're looking for. So I think it's helpful in some regards.
It'll probably, who knows what happens in 10, 20 years, how good it's going to be, but it's not there yet.
I don't know if we're going to be typing much more in a few years.
Yeah.
Seriously, when I go to bed at night and I think of the best software that I could have, it's just walking around with my camera on, taking pictures and having AI kind of decipher it, and then I kind of go over everything. I think in a few years we might be there.
I've done some testing. Maybe. I'm wearing my Spectora shirt because this was actually the next thing in my closet, and then I just kind of picked the next clothes.
That's way
But anyway, they tested with a few different inspectors. I don't know how their program's going, but I did at least one inspection where I just walked around and I did my report on my app, but I talked through it at the same time. And so this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm doing. So that way when they took the recording of everything I was saying and they took my inspection report and they compared it to, I think they had their AI thing kind of run it a little bit and kind of see where they would put the photos and stuff like that. And they're trying to figure that out. I know, Inspector Toolbelt and some other companies are also playing with AI to try to figure that stuff out as well. But yeah, if you could walk around a home and just take photos, and it's hard, it's scary because people are like, well, the inspector's going to eventually, they'll just hire some kid or the homeowner or the buyer, walk around and take photos of this, but it's never going to replace an inspector with experience and actually knowing how to test something and knowing how to test a sink or run a pool pump or walk through an attic. It's not going to replace that.
Yeah, you can't substitute somebody that can actually physically go up there and look at stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of feel the same way about drones too. They're good to have in your backpack, but I wouldn't use it unless I really needed to.
Yeah, if you can walk on a roof safely, it's so much better because then you can feel the vents. You can lift up a tile if you needed to. You can feel the underlayment and see how old it is. You can actually look down the plumbing vent and see if it's done properly with the drone. And it's so much more difficult.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing.
Right, in those 2-story buildings where you have to get up on there, that it's better to show up with a video than nothing at all.
Yeah, you get it up there and see how old the air conditioner system is if you can't get there some other way.
Right.
Good.
All right, man, so what is the weirdest thing you've ever saw in a home inspection?
So we do a lot of team inspections, and so if it's a pretty big home, we'll send 3 or 4, multiple guys depending on how big it is and try to still get it done in half a day, 4 hours. So I think we had 5 guys at this inspection. It was probably like 10,000 square feet. But this was an old mafia house, a mob house. It was built in like the 80s. And all through the home, by the front doors, by different parts, they had like little compartments in the walls that would come out. And that's where there would be guns.
Really?
Hidden, handguns. And then, but that wasn't the weirdest part. The weirdest part is in one of the garages, there was a room, which was soundproof room, and it didn't have the cell anymore, but it used to have a cell in it where the bolts were still on the ground where this jail cell was in this soundproof room.
What?
Yeah. And that was probably one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Do you think it was to keep sound in or sound out?
I think sound in the room from being heard outside of the room.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I can only imagine what hopefully never went on in that room.
So how'd you find out it was a mafia house?
I don't know. Either one of the agents must have told us. But yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Built in the 80s though?
Yeah, 80s.
So yeah.
It was like a big mobster from the East Coast, and I think they were, hiding out or trying to not be on the East Coast anymore.
Well, they got that one guy that came down from New York City and lives here. He's on TV quite a bit. I forget his name, but they made a Netflix series about him.
I have never seen it.
Yeah, he was one of the killers for one of the big mob guys up in New York, and he was on witness protection down here in Arizona.
Was it the one from Goodfellas that Ray Liotta played?
I think so.
Okay, I know
think
he
so.
was, but I didn't know there was a TV show about him or any of that.
Yeah, he was on the news last year. Who sat down with him? Somebody famous sat down with him, and they went back and forth, and they were just like going at each other's throats a little bit.
Oh,
but yeah,
crazy.
I forget what they do down here. I think they have a restaurant, though. But yeah, I've been to a couple crazy houses down here too, but nothing quite like that. I really enjoy doing the historic homes downtown Phoenix. You get to see some really cool old stuff. At 95% of the jobs we do, it's just stucco boxes, right?
What's one of the weirdest or funnest or strangest things you've ever seen?
Well, the immediately what pops into my mind is the Doc Johnson I found in an attic. You know what a Doc Johnson is?
No, I just acted like I did.
It's a sex toy.
Oh.
Yep. In a bag, in a Crown Royal bag right next to the attic hatch. I just poked my hand up, get in the attic, and I felt the Crown Royal bag, and I was like, what is in this thing? And I dropped it out of the bag, and sure enough, it was, I think it was a vacant house, and nobody had lived there at the time. So I'm guessing somebody was just trying to hide it, and yeah.
Yeah, I used to keep marbles in Crown Royal bags, marbles as a kid.
Not quite the same.
No, not the same.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything super cool in an attic. I haven't really found anything crazy in a crawl space. Nothing that's made me not want to be in it or get out. I've never been stuck in a small area, which is nice. I don't want to do any of that. Twice I've put my leg through a ceiling or a roof. One was on an old home. It was like foreclosed and bank owned, and they needed an inspection. And it was like I was on a second story balcony, and I was walking around, and you couldn't tell, but I guess it was all rotted out. So my leg, luckily it was just my leg, fell through, and it was super scary, and was able to get back up and get out.
Wow.
But it was all rotten. You couldn't tell from underneath. And then second time, I was in a new build home. This was while the builder still owned it, and we were doing a pre-purchase inspection. And I'm up in the attic and I'm taking a picture of a vent, the backside of an O'Hagan vent, because it didn't have the clip around it, so it just kind of was not installed properly. And I was staying on the platform like I was supposed to, and I don't know what I did. I still can't imagine how I fell off, but I slipped, or my foot went off, and all of a sudden, same thing, my leg was down through the attic. I didn't fall through, and all the insulation was over. It was right above the kitchen island. So I got back up, went downstairs, and found the superintendent, just apologized and let him know what happened. Let him know to bill us or we'll do whatever he needs. And he was actually pretty cool. I think he was just more appreciative that we just told him. And they have all the trades around, so I'm sure they just fixed it in 10 minutes, and then maybe not blew in more insulation in that spot. But we never heard anything again from him, which was super awesome.
That's
and
crazy.
lucky.
Did you have to go to the doctor or anything?
No, neither of those were big deals.
Did you guys have somebody fall off a ladder a while ago?
Yeah, we did. One of our inspectors, how long ago would this have been now? 2-3 years ago, maybe. It was really funny. It's funny now, looking back.
After the fact.
But he was a funny guy, and he was up on a roof. You know, it was like a 2-story home. And so he took his first ladder and put it up on the bottom portion as a tile roof, and he was inspecting, and he decided to, I think he pulled this ladder up, or he had a second ladder and brought it up with him and put it up for the second roof.
Yep.
And so while he's on the middle roof, or the first roof, he's making a joke. He's like, "Hey, this is Michael." And he would always make a joke in his videos, like he'd say the best inspector in the world, but you know, we gave him crap about it. So he's like, "This is Michael, just kind of like an average, mediocre inspector, you know, up here doing a roof inspection." And then, like, I think he almost slipped. He's like, "Oh crap, don't tell OSHA that." Or so then he puts his ladder up, gets up to the top, and we wear body cameras, and so we can see all of this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he, you know, after the fact, so he gets up onto the second roof, and he's like sitting up there, and then he's standing on his ladder. He doesn't get up there yet. He's watching his video that he just made, and then he laughs, and he's like, "I don't know, I don't want to get up here." And then he starts to get back down, but at some, like, he's almost to the bottom, and it slips or something, and the tile slipped out, or the tile broke, and he fell, hit some tiles, his ladder fell off, he fell off and hit the ground on his side. He broke part of his collarbone, I think a couple of ribs, and he was in the hospital for about a week, and got out and had a long recovery. He's inspecting, not with us, he went actually with another company, but he's fine now, and we put a lot of ladder safety rules in after that, probably more than most companies have, but we really reevaluated just our ladder safety policy, and all ladders have to be ANSI or OSHA certified.
Yeah.
There's other standards in Asia and Europe that a lot of ladders are sold as having those standards, but those aren't allowed. Basically, you have to know what your rating is, you know, if it's 250 pounds, 300 pounds. A lot of those telescoping ladders, mostly the only ones I know that are ANSI and OSHA certified are Extend and Climb and Telesteps, and those, we don't allow any of the other ones. If you're inside on a tile or something besides carpet, anything besides carpet, we have these non-slip mats that you have to put down, and even though the ladders have non-slip feet, we bring in the mat. And if you're at a home that has eaves where you can attach this attachment to, it's kind of like a C-clamp almost, and with two like Velcro straps on it, you have to use it. And so you go up your ladder, put it on, Velcro your ladder down, and it's a lot safer, and it's just made me feel safer. But we just don't want that happening to anybody ever again.
Yeah. What do you do? I'm sure you guys have a decent, you know, workers' comp and stuff like that. But as a home inspector, if you're not working, you're not making any money.
Yeah. We had workman's comp, and Michael was on workman's comp for a bit, but you know, and we had even talked on the phone, like, don't worry about the second, you know, roof, not a big deal. We have a bigger ladder, like, we can come back with another time with it. But he just was trying to be helpful, you know, go above and beyond. He's like, I got this, I can take care of it, and it slipped, and it's just a freak accident.
Yeah,
But
he'd probably done that 50 times before.
Yeah, and it just is kind of like a wake-up call to, you know, you only have one life, you have a family, it's just not worth it.
Right. Yeah, we do get a lot of blowback though if we don't get up on a roof though, right? So we
Yeah.
do our best.
Yeah, we're about to get drones. All of our guys are going to get drone certified. If you use drones commercially, you have to have the, I forget what license it is, it's like an FAA license, and
Right.
be certified for all that kind of stuff just because you're making money off of it. And but yeah, we're going to get drones. So that way we don't have an excuse, and people say, hey, can you get on this roof? And right now we'll bring a big ladder, or maybe it's too high, but now we'll just be like, yeah, we aren't able to get up there, but we used our drone and we were able to see all this stuff and provide a much better service if everybody's going to have drones.
It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So at least getting some eyes on it. It's kind of how I feel about sewer cams too. You know, a lot of people don't know what's down there until the camera gets there. And if you got a roof that you can't get to with a ladder, it's better to have a drone than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, sewer cameras are another super important inspection. I mean, they're all important, and it's difficult to decide, you know, especially because there's money involved in like how much money do I have to spend, and do I have the money for a sewer camera? Do I have the money for a termite or a pool inspection? And what's really important, but you never know what's down there. Like in general, there's nothing wrong, and then you feel like, oh, I wasted my money. Everything's great, but if there is something wrong, you know, it's $5,000-$10,000 later, and it depends on the age of the home. You can have a home from the 60s or even early 70s and have cast iron and galvanized piping. You have Orangeburg plumbing, and Tempe has a lot of Orangeburg. But even newer homes with ABS, like homes in the 80s and up, and even brand new homes, 2024 builds, 5 builds, you know, you can have roots in them, you can have breaks in the line because heavy trucks are driving over construction sites and parking in your yard, and you just have no clue. Construction debris, we found all kinds of water bottles down people's pipes. We did like a 8,000 square foot, 10,000 square foot house for one of the Suns players, and did a sewer scope, and there is a water bottle in his pipe.
Wow.
And so you just never know what you're going to find down there. If you don't get that scope, that's just going to back up.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably would have been okay if it was a new house because the builders would have taken care of it. But, you know, nobody's going to know about it.
Until, sewage is coming out your shower.
Right.
Had that happen on a new house. We did the inspection 2 or 3 days after they moved in, and they had already had this problem.
Wow. What did it come out to be, do you know?
No, I don't know, because we didn't do the scope because they already knew there was a problem.
They already got a plumber.
But there's, who knows? Sometimes they throw concrete down there, and it's ridiculous.
There's a ton of stuff they could use. Even the glue that they use, if they use that excessively, it gets all over the inside of the pipes, and then things just want to cling to that glue. Mm-hmm. Some of that will wash away, you know, during the construction process, but I found cracked pipes too. And like you were saying, the heavy trucks or something driving over the top of these pipes while the house is being built, the sewer lines are in there almost first out of all the rest of it. So you got all these trucks, bobcats, skid steers.
The ground's not settled yet. It's not packed.
Right. So it's soft, right? So yeah. Same reason a lot of that concrete driveways in new houses cracks a lot, because it's just unstable, the ground beneath it. What percentage of houses are you guys doing right now that are new, brand new homes?
It's hard to guess, but it feels like it's probably around 20 to 30%.
Okay. I feel like it's gone up a little bit for me anyway, just because of the interest rates and with the new build buy downs for the interest rate cuts or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. We don't want new build business to ever take over all of our business, because then you lose your resale business.
Right.
And so if it ever gets too much, I mean, we have had discussions to put a cap at it. I think it's at 30%, or maybe it was 40%, but we were like, if we're ever doing more than that, we just say no. We can push them to the next week, we can push them to next month, but we can't ever let it take over so much where now we lost our resale.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because you can't really get that back. It's really hard to get that back after all the agents' referrals have gone to other inspectors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt when I went on vacation, and I was like, hey, Andrew, can you help out my client? I was like,
I don't think they ever called.
No?
And
maybe didn't.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Oh, I'll send you another one sometime.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, but I feel the same way. If you're not there to take care of your client, somebody else will. And, you know, people are loyal to a point. Agents will be loyal to a point, but when it comes down to making their money, they just want the job done.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if I'm busy, I've referred out plenty of people. You know, I know, hey, I know Dan, I know Dylan. Hey, my friend Jeremy just opened his own business. Because they're, you know, unless they're doing so much better than you, where that agent isn't going to refer you anymore,
right?
Then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But generally, they're going to come back because, you know, and we're not stealing each other's business either. It's just we're referring out to friends. You know, I have Charles Drown with Square One Home Inspections. He calls me all the time for like mold and radon. I don't know if he's doing mold yet. I told him to. Hopefully he is, but I'm like, I'll train you how to do mold. And he calls us for radon inspections, and I'm like, yeah, we'll go do radon inspections for you. Like,
he just doesn't want to deal with it.
Or yeah, or just hasn't time to figure it out, or I'm not 100%, but he knows that we do radon, so he'll call, or mold, and call us for those, and it's cool.
Does he do mostly new houses?
No, I don't think so. I think I've seen him do plenty of resale.
They're right.
Yeah.
So there are some companies out there that kind of specialize just in new builds, aren't there?
Yeah, I know. PPI, Protect Property Inspections, does a lot of new builds. I know Cy Porter does a lot of new builds. Sean Doherty does mostly new builds. I think Porterhouse Inspection might mostly only do new builds, just based on their social media videos. I don't know what other companies are really hitting it on the new build market in town.
Does Pro Inspect?
Yeah, they do a lot of new builds, but he does a lot of resale as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure doesn't specialize in new builds,
Yeah.
but he's really good at pre-drywall.
Yeah, Dylan's awesome at pre-drywall. Sean Doherty is, I think Coop, I don't know, is Cooper? I don't know the name of his inspection company, but he seems to really do a lot of pre-drywall inspections. Yeah.
It's crazy how many inspectors you've come to, meet in just your short time of being an inspector. I think that's what's really cool about what you're doing is you're trying to bring a lot of the inspector community together. And I don't know, I think we met because you invited me to a poker tournament night.
Probably.
Inspector poker night.
Yeah, I've been doing inspector poker for just about a year now. It's a little bit over a year. We'll have our next game in November 22nd, Saturday night. But about every 3 months, starting last year in August, I've had this idea for a long time, and I've always collected cards if I've seen them, and I was building a database, and I would collect. If someone else sent me a report from another inspector, I would take down their information. Or if I saw somebody on social media, I would usually screenshot that and then go look them up later. Or just meeting in person at random events, different stuff. And just really the idea is again, I work at a multi-inspector company. I have 5 guys I can text if I haven't seen that thing before, or don't know what that thing is, or something weird, is happening. But most people don't have somebody to reach out to. And so it's hey, let's get to know each other. Let's build a community together, so that way, if you need, don't have any business, or if you have extra business, you need to refer somebody. If you can't get to a Sedona inspection, but Dalen with Century Inspections, you can go to Dalen. And so it's just about getting to know each other, and not thinking of each other so much as competition, but more like colleagues. Obviously we're competition, but I think we're more like colleagues in a sense, where we're all doing the same job. Like to go get a beer with everybody afterwards. And it's just about hanging out, getting to know each other, and not butting heads, but making each other better.
Right.
If PPI is going to start opening the covers on water heaters, well, maybe we should start opening the covers on water heaters, because you know what? We find a lot of corrosion on those elements, or on the heat exchanger and the tankless water heaters. Maybe 30% of the time we see something like that. And it's as easy as opening up an electrical panel.
But you might not know about that if you didn't talk to them.
Yeah, if I didn't see them doing it on social media, at least for them. But yeah, but just talking to other people in general and saying, this is what we're doing, or this is what we're doing. And it's hard, you're not trying to give everybody your secrets, especially you're in the same market. Yeah, let's talk to the inspector in Florida, and what are you doing? Okay, I'll copy you, but you're not gonna tell me how you're doing this thing, or marketing, maybe, more like marketing or trying to gain clients, and then have somebody go copy you. But we can talk about how we can make each other better and how we can do a better job.
Right.
And so many people talk, it's a race to the bottom in some ways, where it's well, I'm going to offer an inspection for this much, or I'm going to go $100 below you. And it's how about well, I'm going to offer an inspection for $500. Well, it's really, that's how much they were in 2010. So maybe we start offering them for $600 or $700, because really, our time is valuable and our experience is valuable. And so many inspectors, I think, don't realize that, maybe because they're slower. It's you lower your prices. Well, eventually, you're not ever going to be able to raise your prices, because people are used to this cheaper price. And it's hard, people come to us and say, well, this other company's $100 lower. Be then go with the other company. Yeah. But if you want to go, I'm not going to give you a deal to meet the other company. Maybe we'll give them a small deal, But
Yeah.
I'm not giving you, if you want to use us, you're calling us for a reason. Stop trying to haggle our price. Go with the other company if you like the price.
Right.
But you don't want that company, you want us. So pay more.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, you guys got that agent or the client to call you guys in the first place, and
Yeah.
they, you know, to some extent, they pay for that.
They do. And I think we provide a really good service.
Yeah.
I think we're worth it.
Why don't more people go out and hire an electrician and a plumber and a roofer and everybody under the sun to come out and do an inspection? Why is it land on an inspector to do that? Why has our industry pushed inspectors as the middleman in between the buyer and the trades?
I think in general, you just don't need all of those trades. And you don't know you do until you get an inspection. You're like, yeah, the plumbing's fine. And you might point out a few things that are minimal. Or maybe, you know, I'm sure you've seen plenty of electrical panels that have stuff, but you've also opened up the ones where it's like, everything's great.
Yeah.
You go through the house and everything's great. It's like, they don't really need an electrician at that point.
Yeah.
But and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is we are there to recognize issues and say, hey, you need further evaluation, buy a plumber, buy an electrician, buy this or that. And in general, all of our comments say that because they have to, because we're going to be the ones that get sued if they don't. We take all the liability on. You know, that's why inspectors were invented, to take the liability away from the agents. And so now that we take on all this liability, we have to refer that stuff out. But it's also up to the agents to help coach their clients through things. You know, some inspectors will coach their clients through, some will kind of shy back, just depending on the type of inspector they are and company. But
Right.
I think in general, the agent can say, yeah, this is really a minor deal, or maybe we don't have any room to ask for any repairs, so we can either take it as it is, I can try to negotiate, but they might turn your offer down. Yeah. And so, you know, I always leave it up to the agent to let them help their client walk through things and decide that kind of stuff. I'll still answer questions and be there for them as much as I can, but and I might even sometimes give it small bits of advice on the side, but I'm like, what's in the report's in the report.
It's hard to stay in your lane sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, I said you need to get an electrician. Like, if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, can you change an outlet? Yeah, I can. Can you? Probably. Are you supposed to get a permit to change an outlet? Yeah. And does anybody? No.
Right.
You know, so it's like, what can you do? Are you smart enough? Do you know how to do things on your own, or do you need someone to walk you through those things?
The inspector isn't going to know that. The inspector isn't going to know the house before they get there, and they're sure as heck not going to know the client that they're working for. Probably.
And I don't know if the client has 3 little kids, if it's a 80-year-old woman, if it's a newly married couple who's never owned a home before, or, you know, if it's a 50-year-old and two 50-year-olds who don't have any kids anymore, they've owned 3 homes, they've done a lot of work themselves, and they're very comfortable with it. And if they got a ton of money, or if they have no money, you just don't know all of these variables.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There are so many different facets of life that people come from that you have no idea what their experience level is. So how do you tackle that when a client or a buyer shows up at a property and you get through your inspection and you sit down with them at the walkthrough, because you usually do a walkthrough with your client, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're trying to communicate what you found that day. How would you talk to somebody different that has experience compared to non-experienced? Do you walk them around and show them the shutoffs, all the issues?
Yeah,
that
we do
found?
both. We do it with everybody. If somebody doesn't want to walk around, we won't. If you know, but in general, that's our default. We'll open up our computer or laptop. We use Spectora software, so when you're doing the home inspection, it populates it on right away. It kind of syncs up into the cloud, and you can refresh your computer as long as you have good service, and you can show them all kinds of stuff. But we'll give them an introduction, kind of like a client introduction speech, and then we'll show them some stuff on the computer that we can't see, like the roof, attic, maybe inside the electrical panel, or HVAC stuff if it's up in the attic or on the roof. And then we walk them through the rest of the house and look at everything else first, like here's the kitchen. And we're explaining what we did as we go, so they can kind of see, oh, they did all of this. You test the appliances, you're telling me about GFCI outlets. You're showing me where the GFCI outlet is for all 3 bathrooms, because I would never have realized it's in the downstairs bathroom for upstairs. But yeah, you're showing them the electrical shutoffs and the water shutoff and the gas shutoff and how to do it, or how to call Southwest Gas if you don't feel comfortable. Telling them, this is what we tested. We tested the pressure, the safety features on the garage door. We tested your balance, and just kind of really explaining, here's what we did. Here's how we tested the water in your sink. So we fill them up and drain them. And here's where we tested the overflow tubs or the shower pan test or these different things that we might do. So they know, oh, okay, here's how you turn your fireplace on. Oh, I didn't know there was a remote, or I didn't know I have to turn the key or throw a match in or whatever they're going to do.
Right.
So yeah, we do that, and I think it provides value, and I think people like seeing the walk around. And it's all different. Some people like to sit at the table the whole time and run through the whole report and then maybe go and look at stuff. But we tend to treat everyone the same. But if you kind of get the idea that deer in the headlights, they don't know what you're talking about, just remind them to ask questions, remind them, call after they've read the report tomorrow or the next day, and just sometimes we just explain. It's like a fire hose of information, and it just seems like so much right now. But after you've read the report and after another day goes by, it's not going to feel so much. It's just going to feel, okay, here's the big items. Here's the things I'm really worried about. And one thing we tell everyone too is it's all subjective. So what you think is major or minor, and your agent, what I think is major or minor is going to be different. You're a home inspector, I'm a home inspector. If I go to another house, I'm not going to be terribly worried about much. But even us, we're going to have different experiences because we've done different stuff. And I might not want to deal with cast iron plumbing. And you might be like, well, I got $20,000 in the bank that I'm just going to line it. And who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, and as being two different inspectors never will inspect that house the same way.
No.
Because like you were saying, the experiences are completely different. And that even goes back a little bit to the AI model, is they're never going to have those experiences. The AI model will never have those discerning differences between maybe two identical houses where you can see how the grading was done right at one and wrong at the other, and the implications of that improper grading on the one. Well, the AI can't tell the difference between the two. It's going to see the problem, but it's what caused that. Maybe it was the lack of gutters. Well, it's not code to have gutters, so AI might not recommend the gutters, but the other house had gutters and now the foundation's fine. So there's going to be those things, like you're saying, about experiences that you're like, yeah, it would help your house out a lot because I've saw this damage.
You're not going to have the person walk around taking photos, scraping rocks away from the stem wall because they see a small crack, looking for a bigger crack.
Right.
I know you said one of the things I always point back to as a home inspector is like when I bought my first home in 2009, Dylan did inspect my house. And he inspected multiple homes for us because the first one or two we didn't go with. And the third one we did. And I remember him walking around explaining soffit vents. And I didn't know what a soffit vent was. And polybutylene, we had polybutylene plumbing. This was like a 93 home. And when we sold this house in 2017, we disclosed it on the SPUDs, seller disclosure, that we have polybutylene, and they had their home inspector come in, and my only experience was Dylan. And so this guy comes in, I'm talking to him, and he says he does like 4 or 5 inspections a day. And I'm like, that seems like a lot. I'm like, how much do you get? He's like, because I know how much they cost. I'm like, this guy's raking it in. And I'm like, okay. And so he does his inspection, and there's 5 things on the report. And this family, they asked for all 5 things to be done. And we did all 5 things. There was a damaged washing machine, kind of like the connections behind the washing machine, the box was damaged a little bit.
Yeah.
There was one door that had, like a bathroom door that had some damage, which we repaired. The closet doors had some repair damage, which we just bought new closet doors. I think there was some corrosion on the outside plumbing, which we had a friend help us fix, and some corrosion at the water heater connections.
That was it.
That was it. There was way more. I knew where all the water damage was in this house. I knew there was polybutylene, and it's not like it wasn't invisible. I don't think this guy even got in the attic. And so inspectors are doing their bare minimum state standards, and there's inspectors that are going way above the standards.
How can you tell? How do you know?
You don't necessarily. I think it's reviews online, seeing what other people say about them. I tend to look at their software because being in the industry, I just kind of feel like if you have a more up-to-date software, like, okay, they're probably trying a little harder because they're spending more money on software. Their website, if they have a good website, And you know, asking people, obviously asking agents and stuff like that, finding a good agent too, because some agents just want to sell homes and they don't care and they want the easy inspector.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always thought this would be funny to do, but like I would never probably do it. But like putting it out there online, be like to clients, be like, if you want a good agent, ask the home inspector. Instead of asking the agents for who your home is, ask the home inspectors what agents are good.
I think that's brilliant.
It is,
That's
because
great.
we know all the good agents and we know all the bad agents. And
true.
agents should be giving us money to be referring them. I don't know if that's illegal or not, probably.
Probably somewhere in there.
Yeah, but people should be coming to us for good agents, because be like, well, what kind of house do you like? What kind of, where do you want to live? And be like, oh, this guy specializes in those types of houses in that neighborhood, or this team specializes in that, and that's really who they should be asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on with that. If there was some way we could make that happen.
You're a single man operator. Why don't you just start blasting that, putting that message out, sponsor it on Instagram and all the places. Be like, don't ask your agent for the home inspector. Ask your home inspector what agents. Get in all the home buyers in Phoenix sites.
It might hit.
It might. Take it. Free idea.
Your good agents are going to be harder to find because they're always out working.
And the good agents probably are, like you said, already have an inspector, but a lot of those open houses, you could just get lucky.
Right.
They might become the next best agent.
Yeah.
And maybe you hit 10 open houses and you only get 1 or 2, that year from it. It's not horrible, but maybe you get lucky and hit the lottery with a couple of agents who they've used their whole career, and now they're 10 years in and they've used you for 10 years because you met them at an open house.
Yeah.
But I think with agents too, it's just about having the same values. You as an inspector want to have the same value as your agents, because you want them to trust you. And when they have an issue with a client, because maybe you had an issue with the home inspection, they know, okay, well, Dan is a good guy. This is, I'll get to talk to him or whatever and figure it out. But in general, they know you want to take care of their clients too. And we're going to work together to find these people the best house. You've probably had the same thing where agents will have multiple times inspections with the same client because it's just not the right house for them.
Yeah.
And those ones are trying to find them a good home because they don't want them in something bad. I've had an agent who has, she finds the best homes. And she must work really hard up front to get these people into a good home, that they only need one inspection, because we do these inspections. They're like, yeah, this home's great. And so and it's all the time. And so we just know that she's just working really hard up front to not have to have multiple inspections.
She probably knows what she's looking at.
Yeah.
Good experience. And I try and talk to my agents too and give them some of those tips too. Can you believe there's still agents out there that don't know the difference between a gas and electric house? How easy it is to tell the difference? I try and tell them all the time. I'm like, just look for the flues up on the roof. If you drive by and you see a B vent coming out with a B vent cover on it, I kind of show them what it looks like. But I'm like, that means it's gas. You don't have to guess or look around for a meter or anything like that. If you see a water heater in your garage and it's got a flue going up to the ceiling, it's gas.
Yeah.
But a lot of these agents that are new to the game, they don't know that stuff. So I have to answer a lot of questions for agents too, just like home buyers.
Yeah. And some just, even experienced agents, I think that's just hard for them to get. Their head's somewhere else, they think differently, and that makes sense too. But yeah, we did a CE class, and Sean does some of them, but I'm going to get certified to do CE classes as well for agents. But one of my favorite ones is I think it's like how to manage a home inspection or something like that. It might have a different title, but we'll usually market these to different offices. So one office at a time, and try to get 10 to 20 agents, and we'll meet at a home, one of their listings, and we'll walk them through a home like a home inspector.
That's awesome.
And talk about what we're going to do where. We'll bring in props. Like I had my old panel taken off and I had aluminum wiring. I still have aluminum wiring, but here's a panel. We have a Federal Pacific and a Zinsco panel. So we'll bring those in, bring in a clean sewer scope and set that up and show them that. And just kind of talk about different stuff that we see. Talk about things that they can see at this house that they can easily learn how to point out to new people and to buyers. But also explain that here's things that we can't see right now. Here's things you don't know until we get up in the attic, or until we really test these things.
Right.
So, but it's just kind of helping them, and then they'll ask questions like, well, what about this, or what do you do about that? And just helping them understand, here's what we would say or do, or here's how this house works, or different things that they really just aren't thinking about in general.
If there was one thing that you think most agents don't realize about a home inspection, what would that be?
That we are there to really stress the house. I think the buyer's agents, but buyer's agents are always end up being seller's agents too. So it's weird, but in general, the buyer's agents are going to be more lenient because you're working for their client. The seller's agents tend to get a little more frustrated when something breaks. But as long as we were just doing normal operating conditions, we weren't doing anything that we were not supposed to be doing, that we don't pay for it unless there's a weird circumstance. But if I was to turn a door handle and the door knob falls off, well, I didn't do anything, it just fell off. Maybe it's really easy, I could screw it back together, but maybe it's not. I know one time, 2 times, and they're very similar circumstances, but one where I was turning on a shower and the whole knob just fell off in my hand. And again, body cameras, I'm like, the first thing I do, and any guy on our team just like, look, we hold it up to body camera, like, I didn't do anything.
Not my fault.
No, not my fault. And it's spewing out water, so I have to run out to the meter and shut the meter off because the main water valve wasn't working.
Oh, man.
And so I called the agent, I explained, and she, on the phone, she's like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, nothing. Like, I'm nicer than that, but just explain, there's nothing I can do about this. Like,
Right.
It just happened. If I had whacked it with a hammer, yeah, sure. If I, had tripped and done something strange and knocked it off, yeah, I would definitely fix it. I'm being negligent, or I made a mistake, or there's an accident. But if it's something that breaks under normal operating, there's nothing I'm going to do about it. You open up a garage door. One time, Benji, one of our inspectors, pulled the emergency release chain to test balance, and the whole garage opener fell off.
Oh.
He turned around, pointed at his body camera at it, and said, "Look, this," and nothing came of it. It was at a condo building, so the detached garage, so he couldn't get out of this garage. So he had to manually lift up the garage door and slide under it and then let it shut.
Those things are heavy.
Yeah, but it's just all kinds of things that I wish the agents would just realize, that we're there to protect the buyer.
Right.
So if it breaks, then the seller should fix it, or at least they should negotiate it, or at least the buyer knows they're moving in with a broken thing. But the thing I don't want is when that buyer moves in to open the garage door or to turn on that faucet and for that to fall off on them, because then they're going to blame me. Like, what did you do? I'm like, and it still could happen where they move in and do that and it still breaks. Like, every time something breaks at my house, my first thought is, good thing this isn't a home inspection. Good thing I didn't just do this home inspection. I opened up my garage door and pop, the spring breaks. You know what would a seller thinks if that home inspection just occurred and they opened the garage door? The home inspector broke it.
Yep.
I wake up at 5 a.m. and I go out and I hear something outside my front door, and there's a huge water leak at my sprinkler system. And if this had happened to a seller, or this had happened when first day after the buyer moves in, why didn't the home inspector catch this?
Right.
Because there's nothing to catch. It just broke. Things just break. And that's I guess that's the second thing, is we're there to stress the house, and also realize that things just break at any time, due to neglect, due to wear and tear, due to age.
Right.
But things just happen, and doesn't mean the home inspector broke it, doesn't mean the home inspector did anything. It just means it was time for that thing to break.
And it could happen at any time. That's
Exactly.
why our inspection report is a snapshot in time. And I did an inspection the other day, and I found out it was a winterized property on a foreclosed home. And I couldn't
Here in
go
town?
finish it. Yeah, in Phoenix. I couldn't finish it. So I had to leave, and I was like, yeah, all my pictures I did of the roof and the exterior, just gone. I mean, I can't carry those over for 2 days from now when I do the inspection for real, because that's going to have the date on it. And I can't carry over pictures from, 3 days ago to that inspection report, which is okay, because if anything changes in that time, I want my clients to know about it. And it's possible, a bullet from a straight, drive-by from a mile away grazes the side of the house, and now they have a hole in the side of the house that wasn't there when I did the original report. So yeah, it's just that snapshot in time.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of agents don't realize that, and a lot of buyers don't either. I know when I moved into this house, everything was good. This was a very lightly lived in house.
Were you an inspector at that point?
I was not.
Okay.
No, but our inspector that we had kind of inspired me to become one. And I think that's the truth with many inspectors out there. They have an inspection, they're like, wow, this is crazy to know all these things. You want to dive into it and dive deeper into being a better homeowner, and then you just kind of fall into being an inspector. It's kind of where I did. But I was getting zapped at every electrical outlet or switch that upstairs in the house. Like inch-long zaps, like electrical charges. And I was getting pissed. I didn't know what was going on. Every time I'd walk upstairs, I felt like I was going to get electrocuted. So I called up the inspector. Great guy. He lived down in, I think, Maricopa, but he drove up here and called the electrical company immediately. And they met him out here, and they went over my electrical panel. It was a little bit of a loose ground wire in the electrical panel, but they account all the static electricity to just the house being vacant for several months.
Yeah.
And not having enough humidity in here. So, you've got carpeted floors, and you start walking around on carpeted floors. If it's super dry, that's what was happening. It was causing that. So he told us to fill up the bathtubs full of water and let it sit for a couple of days, and it went away.
Wow.
So the moisture just kind of like went into the air and kind of rehumidified the house, and it stopped. But I was so mad at my inspector. I was like, what did he miss? I'm so pissed. We're going to have to pay for something.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. How much is this going to cost? This is why we paid the inspector to find this. Well, a lot of these times it's not the inspector's fault. It's just some weird stuff that happens. And, might not happen at the inspection, but it happens the day you move in. We can't control that. As much as we know it sucks, we can't control it. But I know we take a lot of pride in our work. At least most inspectors I know.
Yeah.
Are really proud inspectors. They're not just like, oh, it's just my job, whatever. You have to have somewhat of pride in what you do to be able to do what we do.
And that kind of jumps all the way back to like the poker game, meeting each other, making each other better, and just getting to know guys who have similar values, who inspect like you. And even though I say that, but I really don't know how you inspect. I don't know how Charles inspects, or most guys inspect, but it's still, you still get to know them personally, and you get to know, okay, I think they're probably a good inspector.
Yeah. You have some conversations with them. You kind of see how they would phrase certain things and whatnot. I keep looking at your Spectora shirt, man. I got to ask, do you guys ever do the Spectora where you're a multi-inspector firm, so you're walking around with 2 different phones and it goes into one report?
Yeah, that's how it works. So if we have 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, whatever, we're all building off the same report. And it used to be a little bit different, that they're on a newer software or changed up a little bit, so it syncs up a little more immediate. So if I click a button saying like broken window, and I say it's in the living room, and Zach's upstairs, and 3 minutes later he's opening it up. The photo may not be there because that's a little bit of a bigger file, but he'll open up and say, oh, there's already a broken window. And so he'll see that same comment already clicked, and he'll just take a picture of one in the primary bedroom. And now we have multiple broken windows. Or if it's maybe some sort of informational comment where we might click buttons like where the attic accesses are. And so we'll say there's one in the primary bedroom closet, there's one in the garage, well maybe there's one in like the pantry. And so Cody's doing the kitchen, he gets to the pantry and he'll see that, click it, so that now we know there's 3 attic accesses or whatever. So it updates pretty immediate. As long as you have fairly good service on your phone.
Yeah.
And then also to your iPad, when you refresh it, it all pops up. Everyone's comments are there. All the photos are there. It's pretty cool.
Do you ever have a problem with the title picture not showing up right on the report?
Recently, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been really
too.
frustrating. And the other day I wrote them a message, I'm like, just fix it. I don't have time And I don't have time to talk about it. I have time to chat with support. I'm like, here's the problem. Please just fix it. And they're like, it's a known problem, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I just don't get it. You use Spectora too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's like, I love them. I love the people there. I've spent lots of time talking to them, and they know I love them. You know, and they know that my criticism or my long emails are not to be mean. It's to really help them because I do care and I want their product to be awesome.
Well, you want to use the best product.
And
you
I
know?
still think it is the best product. I don't have the time to play with Inspector Toolbelt or to check out Report On, which Dalen and Sedona made, and it seems like it's cool. Or, you know, ISN's new report writer, whatever that is, or Scribeware, which I hear is pretty cool. You know, but I just have a feeling that if I take all the time to move to one of those and learn it, I'm just gonna be disappointed because I've done all this time, I spent all this money and effort moving, and I'm like, it doesn't even do what Spectora does. And so we stay because I still think it's the best. I just wish the little things were better.
Yeah. Yeah, there's little quirks in it that don't work right every once in a while.
Yeah.
I've noticed that title picture just in like the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so screwy.
Yeah, but 6 years I inspected with HomeGauge, and I loved HomeGauge. I didn't know anything else. So I kind of started with that, but a lot of our comments that we had with the multi-inspector firm, maybe they're like that with your company too, but they're predetermined comments. We don't get to go in there and just type out every comment when we find it. It's already written, and BPG had lawyers examine all the comments to make sure that if this goes to court, this is going to hold up for our people. So they didn't want you to change too much of the verbiage.
Yeah.
Kind of carry it over the same. But I like Spectora because it's so easy. The biggest problem with HomeGauge was my company didn't want me to use the mobile version of it. I'm like, it's 2022 at the time, 2023. I'm like, I want to use the mobile version.
What would you have to do? Take photos on a digital camera and then put them on a computer?
That's what they were doing. That's what they all did. I mean, the guys that worked at BPG, they're a generation above me, so probably in their 50s, 60s. But that's how they grew up doing it, and they were still doing that when I quit. And I think my old manager finally went to a cell phone after I was like, see, it doesn't overheat that easily. They do overheat every once in a while. And
yeah, they overheat.
I've got 2 phones now. I've got one backup. I keep one plugged in the house, and if it overheats, I'll just swap it out and take the other one outside.
That's not a bad idea. I have an iPad which I could then start use, but I just I'll do the roof in the middle of summer, and then I'll have a phone case in the freezer. So I'll swap out phone cases.
Smart.
I'll come inside, take the phone case off, maybe put the cold one on if it's pretty hot, and then put in my comments. Put the other phone case in the freezer, go do the exterior, or just take photos probably, and then come back in, take the phone case off, put the photos in. But that's, you know, it's only middle of summer when I really have to do that.
Yeah. I used to get those little dental ice packs, and I would freeze them, put them in my cooler, and just put them in my pockets during the day, and then I put my phone next to that little
That
frozen thing, frozen puck, whatever you want to call it. But it was nice when it's 125, you have one little thing that's refreshing in your pocket. You're kind of like, you know, gravitating towards it. But man, it's a miserable inspecting down here in the summer. That's probably the worst thing I think about inspecting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I grew up here, so I'm just,
No, I'm a North Dakota farm
and even
boy.
though people that grew up here, some people hate it, some people, so I'm one of the people who grew up here and I do love it. I don't love the summer necessarily, but I don't mind it. Where it's like, yep, I'm just gonna be sweaty. You know, like I was saying, I worked in hospitality. I did a lot of bellman and valet work for a good portion of it just because I made really good money. And I never wanted to do that forever. I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. But I still have friends who are doing it who make tons of money. Because they're at, you know, places like the Sanctuary and the Phoenician and, you know, places like that who have high clientele. Those guys are career bellmen. And it's because they have a good lifestyle. They can basically work as much or as little as they want and whenever they want. And they have benefits, they have health, they have all of it. Hyatt, Marriott, those are both awesome. Well, Sanctuary's not either of those, but, you know, all these bigger hotel companies, they have awesome benefits. And so I worked outside my whole life. Every summer, you just drink a ton more water.
Yeah.
You're sweaty, and you just have to not mind it.
Just deal with it.
I mean, it's easier being a home inspector because I come inside and do something and go back outside, come inside, go in the attic, get all the stuff you need, get out of the attic.
Yeah. Yeah, on certain hot days, it depends on the day, but I might start on the inside. Make sure that AC is cooling it down first before I start going back outside.
Yeah.
Just so I know I have somewhere to escape to where I'm not crying like a little baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm Scandinavian, man. White skin and red blood, and we're from Norway. North Dakota, grew up, so everything was cold, man. All my fingers are frostbit. So like cold weather is like, you know, my home. So coming down here in 120 degrees, running around on concrete tile roofs with the bottom of your shoes melting off, it was a shock. And it's still shocking to me, but being prepared was the biggest thing that got me over that hurdle. Not drinking enough water, that was my biggest problem. The first couple of years we lived here, I drank nothing but soda. And eventually I felt like my blood just became syrup. So I started drinking water, and that was a huge deal. Started doing a lot more electrolyte drinks, but it's rough, man. Being in an attic, you get what, 5-10 minutes in the summertime before you got to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100, it depends on the attic and the ventilation, but I think I've been in ones that's been up to like 160. I want to say 180, but that doesn't feel right. That feels like exaggerated. But I think 160.
It wouldn't surprise me. I saw 150.
Laser the beams, and I don't laser the sheathing. You know, I laser like just a 2x4 because I feel like that's probably a little more accurate temperature than if you're doing the sheathing. But yeah, like 160 degrees in that attic, like because there's no ventilation up there, which is an issue that we call out.
Yeah.
But still, it's ridiculous.
I walked into a house from the 70s once that didn't have very good ventilation, and they just had a new roof put on. I go in the attic, and there's about 50 dead pigeons in there. My guess is they had a hole in the roof when they were doing the roof. The pigeons went in there, and then they sealed them in. So when I went in there was nothing but feathers and bones all over in this attic.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they had to go in and get all the insulation out of it, get all the dead birds out of it. I mean, it was a house that was selling for, you know, probably just a couple $100,000, nothing big. So who had the money to stick into it to do that? Not my
Hopefully they made the roofer do it.
Hopefully, but...
I guess there's no way to prove that the roofer... I mean, it's not their fault, I guess. I don't know.
On a house like that, it's usually going to be that, you know, some guy from down the street that does the roof.
Yeah.
So your chance of getting any money or compensation for that was pretty small. But it was crazy. It was pretty gross. It had a nice smell to it, too.
Yeah.
Went to a Matt Mason concert the other night at the Van Buren. When was the last time you went there?
Honestly, I've never been to the Van Buren.
What?
Yeah, somebody was telling me about it, talking about it the other day, and I said the same thing, and they're like, surprised. I'm like, yeah, I just have never seen a concert there. I think the other day, or about a month ago, Marilyn Manson was there.
He was there the night before Matt Mason
Which sounded really fun, but no, I've never been there.
It was just too expensive, man. I would have went because Manson puts on a hell of a concert, but yeah, it was like 3 times the price for Manson.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't pay to go see him. I've seen him once, but he's not like my favorite.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. If I had like tickets or they were cheap enough to like, sure, let's go, but.
Yeah. Matt Mason was cool. There was a guy opening for him called Slim Dan.
Okay.
So I was like, I got to go meet Dan afterwards. So we went and I bought a hat from him.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to small shows, but in general, like go to like the big shows, like football stadium or whatever it's called now, but Desert Sky Pavilion. I think it's Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, the one on like 70th Avenue in Thomas. When I was a kid, it was called Desert Sky Pavilion.
I had some friends come down. They were going to go to a concert there, so they stayed at the hotel. They didn't realize it was on the other side of town.
And that's another thing. It's just so misleading. Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, and you think it's at the resort, which is not even close.
Not even.
And it's just a horrible name for. I know multiple people have done stuff like that and gone to the wrong place for that night because they don't know where they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't have booked hotel rooms at Talking Stick if they would have known that, because then they had to try and find an Uber. Well, I took them out there. But then I was like, after the concert, you guys are on your own. And I guess they were walking around for like an hour and a half afterwards because they couldn't get an Uber to pick them up and bring them all the way back.
Wow.
So I felt bad for them, but I'm like, hey man, that's part of the game down here. Just driving everywhere.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad with the higher speed limits around here, but
Yeah. No, I like going to concerts. I mean, I've gone to concerts since I was a kid, but lately I go a lot with my daughter. She's 17. And so we'll see things like, she likes all kinds of stuff. Like she grew up loving Taylor Swift. So I've been to at least 2 Taylor Swift concerts. She's been to more than that, almost every album. Plus Taylor Swift's new album just came out Thursday and it's pretty awesome. A lot of people, I guess, hate it. I don't really care enough to hate it, but I think it's good.
yeah.
But we're going to see Chaperone on next Saturday in Pasadena. We're going to drive up Saturday, go to the concert, stay at Airbnb, come back Sunday. But we'll go see. We've been to Metallica a couple times with her. We saw Green Day. Went to Las Vegas, the When We Were Young tour about 2 years ago, and saw Blink-182 and Green Day, and The Offspring, and who else was there? Good Charlotte, and yeah, we've seen Slipknot, Megadeth, The Misfits, Limp Bizkit, and this is just with Lucy, you know.
It sounds like it's a lot of influence from you, though.
Yeah, and some from her, you know, Chaperone, Taylor Swift, stuff like that. But she likes all these bands, you know, and it's fun. You know, being 17, she's been to so many more concerts and bands that I had ever been to by 17. I'd only gone to a few, probably 2, 3 maybe at that time. But she's just lucky.
You could say that. You could say that.
Yeah, but it's fun. She likes to go to all these different concerts. She's going to When We Were Young, so she's going to Chaperone next week. Some other band in the middle of the week, I forget who she said. And then the weekend after, she's going to When We Were Young again in Las Vegas with one of our friends. I didn't want to go again because none of the bands were like bands I really, really cared to see. But she's going with somebody else, and they're going to take her up to Las Vegas and spend the weekend with her. We saw Smashing Pumpkins and Sublime at the Green Day concert. I don't know if you've heard any of the new Sublime or if you like Sublime at all, but Bradley's son Jacob is headlining for them, and he is awesome. They have new music coming out. They're going to be at Innings Festival in February with Sublime and Blink-182, and on Sunday night, and a couple other bands. I'm going to go see that. I already bought tickets for that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big Sublime fan back in the day. I remember I made my grandma buy me a Sublime CD for Christmas.
That's awesome.
And it came with like this little shrinked up T-shirt.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was like one of those where you like pull it apart, almost like a Frozen T-shirt contest type thing, you know. But you're pulling it apart, and then I think there was a joint on the front of it or something. My grandma was like, "Oh hell no!" So I had a hard time wearing the shirt. But his son is a good singer though.
Yeah.
Bradley's son.
Yeah.
I heard good things about him, but I haven't actually.
You should look up some of their music, some of him singing like concerts, and their new song Ensenada is really good. And it's just cool. He's like, you know, talking about making music with my uncles, and I don't know much about him or them, but it sounds like he's probably known them his whole life, and you know, but yeah, they put on a good show.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to catch a concert someday.
That'd be cool.
I don't know which one, but I'm going to one in November. I don't know what it's called, but it's just a whole bunch of like folk rock artists up in Scottsdale.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's crazy that Phoenix has all these concerts, man. Where I'm from, we had to drive like 3 hours to see a concert, and that was Amy Grant. You know, that was my big first concert. Who was your first concert?
The Monkees.
The Monkees, no way.
Yeah, I was like in 7th or 8th grade. They're at the Celebrity Theater down on like, I don't know, 24th Street in Van Buren or somewhere around there. I forget exactly. But yeah, my grandfather wrote songs for the Monkees. He actually just passed away a month ago.
That's right, I think I did see
Yeah,
that.
but his name was Bobby Hart, and there's a songwriting duo, Boyce and Hart, Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. But they wrote a bunch of the Monkees songs. Just about any hit besides what's the big hit they didn't write? The one Neil Diamond wrote, the one that was in that Smash Mouth covered for Shrek. I'm a Believer.
Oh.
They didn't write I'm a Believer, but they wrote like the Monkees theme song, and I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, and Last Train to Clarksville, just a bunch of other ones.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, we got tickets to the Monkees and backstage passes. That was my first concert.
That sounds pretty cool.
It was cool.
Probably not a big venue either.
No, it's pretty small. There's a stage in the middle, and it kind of rotates, so it goes in a circle.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Oregon pizza stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty slow, which I assume is good for the artists to not notice. But
Start puking on stage.
yeah,
It's too fast.
but it's pretty neat.
Thanks for stopping by today, Andrew. I learned a lot about you, and I think what you do with the Inspector Poker Night tournament is a big deal. I know it's affected me in a big way positively because I got to meet different inspectors down here that I didn't know before. You know, I was working for a multi-inspector firm and kind of like closed off in my little bubble, and I was okay with it. But now I'm learning from other inspectors how they're doing stuff, and I'm you know, like you were saying, trying to become a better inspector, and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for inviting me, and you know, making social media videos, you know, so I can see what you got going on and just the different things you're doing. It's always good to see. You know what? I really appreciate you inviting me over.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dan.
You got it.
Inspector Dan in Gilbert Town. He won't let your new house let you down. From the attic to the ground, he's the sharpest guy around.